While these devices have opened up worlds of information, our soul is at risk in a number of different ways. There are 4 key dangers that the internet has for us. Our first internet danger is the intellectual impasse. Somebody say intellectual impasse. That was mediocre. So even your eye patterns and your brain patterns think differently when you're on learning from a screen than you are when you're learning from a book. My eyes are not going left to right, top to bottom. They're going add, sentence, add, flashing light, notification. Can anybody relate to this? That all added together means we cannot think as clearly as we did a generation ago. The fattest, oldest, and most complicated book that most of you will probably ever read in your life is the Bible. And understanding this takes sustained thought and study. If our brains have been pre-programmed to 10 sentences and then click, it becomes incredibly difficult to understand that which is the fountain of life. All right, point number 2 is the perpetual pain puzzle. Somebody say perpetual pain puzzle. Okay, now impress me and say that. And some of you guys are watching those news channels 4, 6, 8 hours a day, filling your soul with pain. You are not designed to carry the pains of the world. There is only one who is designed to take on the pains of the world, and his name is? Jesus. Jesus was designed to take on the pains of the world. And you just name one political figure's name or one event that's happening in the world, and it trips the trigger for that anger to pop up towards the surface. I'm gonna go back to that 20 minutes a day that my parents ingested, or I'm gonna choose my sources really, really carefully. You may be able to take a source like ChristianHeadlines.com, which is non-political and non-anger driven, that'll give you more of the facts of what's happening in the day. Heading towards number 3, we have the pornography predicament. Somebody say pornography predicament. You can carry a library of pornography in your pocket. Always there's somebody in the room who goes, it's really not that big a deal. It's a victimless crime. The spouse of a porn user oftentimes feels disgust. It's actually caused a generation of impotence in men, both figuratively and literally. There are certain viruses that just destroy you from the inside out. Pornography is one of those viruses. Porn destroys marriages. When you get addicted to pornography, your brain becomes programmed to the images on a screen rather than flesh-to-flesh contact. Now, if this is something that's been a struggle for you guys, join that group and become a part to get on the solution side of this epidemic. Our last point, number 4, I've labeled the transgender trouble. Somebody say transgender trouble. That it needs to be approached with an awful lot of kindness and grace. We used to consider people who did this to be predators and groomers. I never thought I'd see a day when counselors and schools would hold a child's desire to chemically castrate themselves or mutilate their bodies as top surgery to be kept secret from their parents. Abigail Schreier wrote a book called Irreversible Damage. This was probably the most helpful book that I've ever read on the transgender subject. Anxiety-ridden, middle-class girls who once engaged in cutting or anorexia were now wearing binders, taking testosterone, and undergoing voluntary double mastectomies. YouTube and TikTok stars who will coach them how to threaten suicide in order to move into their new identity. But one of the things you can say for sure is that having surgery does not change the desire to commit suicide among trans people. How do we as followers of Jesus respond to people from the trans community? Our knee-jerk reaction should be love. It should be compassion. It should be tenderness and kindness. At the same time, it's unkind as a culture for us to continue to play into this. At some point, it's not kind to tell the child that the truth fairy is real, even if they really, really believe it. It's horrific to encourage body-altering surgery and destructive medication in teens. They may not agree with what we have to say. In fact, an alcoholic or a drug addict or a greedy person or a narcissist or people with other mental disorders, when they're confronted with their dysfunction, they don't tend to respond very well either.